Alright, today we're going to talk about how to find the molecular formula from the empirical formula. So you can pause the notes at any point in time if I'm moving too quickly, but here we go. So, finding the molecular formula. We'll find the molecular from the empirical formula. The equation we'll use is X times the empirical formula mass equals the molecular formula mass, and I'll show you how to find X. So, first question is, what is the molecular formula if 4.04 grams of nitrogen combine with 11.46 grams of oxygen to produce a compound with a formula mass of 208 atomic mass units? That should really be grams per mole. Sorry about that. If we're talking about masses, we should use the units that are involved in mass. Alright, so this is the problem we'll be working on the next slide. So remember, whenever you solve these problems, you do the mass-mole ratio to find the empirical formula, because first we must find the empirical formula before the molecular. And we have two elements involved, nitrogen and oxygen. And if we look at the previous slide, we're told that nitrogen was 4.04 grams, and we're told that oxygen was 11.46 grams. So those are our masses. In order to find the moles, we must divide each by the molar mass from the periodic table. Nitrogen is roughly 14, oxygen is roughly 16. We get 0.28 moles and 0.71 moles for oxygen and nitrogen. So now the ratio. The way we figure out the ratio, which is the subscript in the empirical formula, is by dividing by the smallest mole. In this case, 0.28. So we divide both by 0.28. Naturally, nitrogen is 1. Oxygen comes out to be 2.5. So technically right now we have, skipped a step. Technically right now we have N1O 2.5. But you can't have 2.5 oxygen atoms in a molecule. And so what we have instead is multiply it by a whole number, both of them, that will give us a whole number for both the subscripts. So if we multiply by 2, nitrogen becomes 2, oxygen becomes 5, so our empirical formula becomes N2O5. Now all of this was necessary to find the empirical formula. If you are given the empirical formula to start the problem, you just start now. So now that we have the empirical formula, we know that our equation is X times the empirical mass equals the molecular mass. We were given the molecular mass on the previous slide. It's the mass of the molecular formula. And we know that because nitrogen is 14, and we have 2 of them, plus oxygen is 16, and we have 5 of them, we know that our answer is going to be 104. The molecular mass we were given was 208 grams per mole. So now to solve this problem, we divide both sides by 104, X equals 2. Well, great. What the heck does that mean? The last thing you need to do is take this value that you're given and multiply each subscript by that value in order to come up with your molecular formula. So nitrogen times 2 is 4, oxygen times 2 is 10. So we get a molecular formula of N4O10. So keep in mind, all the previous steps before this were if you were not given the empirical formula. If you're given the empirical formula, what you must do is find the overall mass of the empirical formula, 104. You'll be given the molecular mass of your compound you're trying to find, and place an X there, solve for X. So if you're given the empirical formula, it's just this work down here. If you're not given the empirical formula, you first must find the empirical formula using mass-mole ratio. Any questions? Come in for help.